Thank you very much for joining today's podcast.
Pleasure.
This is our podcast where I started it last August, Unfiltered Gupshup USA podcast, and which offers very candid conversations with variety of topics. We talk, we invite our guests, and I'm so overwhelmed they come and agree for my podcast. And thank you very much for joining today's podcast.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Unfiltered Gupshup team is there. My family, my photo, AB Photo Studios is helping me around, and thank you for doing so. And we have today a very special guest today with us, and let me introduce a little bit, and he will be explaining more about himself after a few minutes. So Steve Rao is a leader, dedicated to public servant and passionate advocate for innovations, and a lot of things he is doing. Long-standing member of the Town of Council and Morrisville Town of Council, Steve is consistently championed economic growth, technology advancement, and making opportunities for various people, various genres of people here in Morrisville. Beyond his role on the council, Steve is influential voice in technology and government innovations, frequently contributing to WRAL Tech Wire, and a lot of things he is doing. We would be like to know from him more than I'm explaining about him. So thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure
and introduce our Unfiltered Gupshup audience about yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Steve Rao, and I serve as a senior member of the Town Council in Morrisville, longest-serving Indian American in North Carolina, 14 years. I'm leaving Morrisville this year to run to be one of our new Wake County commissioners, and that would be to represent 1 million people across the county.
Yes.
So really excited about the opportunity to move forward to help more people.
Yes.
And I'm the son of immigrants from India. My mom grew up in Delhi. My dad grew up in Madras, Chennai. They're still living in Morrisville. But we all grew up in West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia, where my dad pursued a career in surgery. And I married my college sweetheart from college, Emory University, my wife Komal. I have 2 children, Sonia and Ryan. And I was a very competitive tennis player growing up. So, I ran today 24-minute 5K and swam a half a mile. And,
God.
So I'm really fit, and one of my hobbies is I hit with top junior tennis players.
Yes,
Keep them
awesome.
training and active.
So what inspired you to get involved into public service, and what kept you motivated throughout this career?
Well, what motivated me, I tell you, when I went to college, I was a college tennis player, and then my junior year, I had the opportunity of becoming a fellow at the Carter Center. So I had the honor of seeing and working with former President Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. It was created an amazing experience. I didn't know him personally, but I did know I did work there at the center, and it was amazing. He managed fair elections in Haiti. He managed guinea worm disease. We hosted dignitaries like the president of Costa Rica. And I worked for a man named Robert Pastor, who was the Latin American security advisor on the National Security Council for him when he was president. And so it was quite fascinating, and it was from him that I learned a former president that did so much with his wife, Rosalind. President Carter passed away a few months ago, but it really instilled in me this notion of service. Just to see a former president serve, and I was in the student government. Went back to West Virginia, worked for a while, eventually did some governmental lobbying work. I have a law background, eventually got in the tech sector. But I worked for Joe Manchin when he was a state senator. He went on to become governor and U.S. Senator. Bob Wise, United States Congressman, he went on to be West Virginia governor. I knew Senator Rockefeller, John Amores, who was the first Filipino elected in the West Virginia legislature, and I worked with him. It was amazing. So politics was in my DNA. My dad's grandfather was Rama Rao, who was the Speaker of the Tamil Nadu legislature in British India, and then went on to become, join the Gandhi civil disobedience movement. So I guess, but then in 2010, what happened was one of my friends, Tom Murray, who was on the city council, won a seat in the legislature. And he approached me about running. I had just run for the Wake County Commission in 2010, had lost a very close election, and he approached me about running, and I did, and I won, and it was great. And I did a 2-year term, and then ran again. Had an opportunity to run for mayor, didn't do it. Had an opportunity to go for legislature. Looking back, I probably should have done it. But it's been a great run, and that's what instilled me in service.
That's gone wonderful. So Morrisville has been a rapid growth in recent years, and what are the biggest challenges and opportunity that came with the growth of the city?
Well, Morrisville, just 10, 15 years ago was just a few hundred people, and now it's over, I think, 38,000, closing in on 40. And I think with the challenge of Morrisville is a perfect example, but any town or city that we live in, whether it's Cary, Apex, all across Wake County, we have to have worried about traffic and growth. We're getting too many people that are coming in that are from all over, 60 people a day moving into Wake County. So we cannot manage the traffic enough. The DOT is running out of funding, and so they cannot pave enough roads or build enough roads. So construction projects are behind. Schools is another issue. We often see schools are overcrowded, kids are being reassigned a lot because we never forecasted so much growth in the western wake of the part of the county. So with that being said, I think it's I would say growing smart. With it comes an opportunity. That how do we, and we're going to talk about this later, how do we invest in transit? How do we invest in rail? How do we invest in solutions that get people out of the cars so they can get to places? How do we have smart growth where we look at innovative ways to create more monies for the schools? We have to get this legislature to give more money for the schools, the state General Assembly. And so these are things I think that development can pay for growth. If we had fees that when someone builds a community or housing, if a percentage of that revenue would go into the schools, that could help a lot. But right now, legally, we're not allowed to do that. So these are the biggest challenges.
Yes. So you are a strong advocate of technology and innovation. So how do you see the involvement of Morrisville City making into a smart city?
Well, that is one of the proudest achievements that I have had, but my council and colleagues have had. I was always a proponent of technology and innovation, even back into the early days of moving things to the cloud, which we did, having better cybersecurity, disaster recovery, moving away from on-premise servers to have it somewhere in case something happened, services and software run by subscription-based. But then smart cities came along, and it's this whole idea of the IoT, the Internet of Things, these billions of devices that are connected to the Internet. And what Morrisville did is we created, we had a company called IDC. They did a smart city assessment, and we started a smart city advisory committee at my request, bringing in technology leaders, many people from our town. Almost 35% is Indian, so many are in IT. And what we did is we came up with a smart city plan. We took all of our departments, and for those listening to this podcast, I define a smart city as leveraging technology to enhance the benefit, the quality of services to residents. So we did it in a couple ways. We would put sensors in our parks, so when there was floods, gates would automatically close. Residents would be notified. So when I was young, I had young kids and we'd go to soccer, you would always wonder, how are we doing this, right? We're gonna go and call a number, but now you can get. We have an app now we built in Morrisville called Morrisville Central, where you can report a problem. People get notified on the app. You can, if you're going to go play tennis or pickleball, you can use your app to see which courts are taken, so you can save your time. And we're getting technologies where we have sensors now in our gyms, so if I want to know if the lanes are taken or what equipment is being used. And eventually we're extending beyond that to generative AI. So we're going to be creating, something called Morris the Cricket, which is we're going to talk about cricket today probably in Morrisville, but it's going to be a chatbot that's answering basic questions for residents. When do I get my yard waste pickup? When do I do this? So eventually 311 call center. So these are all the way technologies are being used, and I'm so excited because one, I want to scale this around the county. I want to make Wake County a smart county. I want to make county an AI county.
Yes.
But with it comes an economic development component, because there's an organization called Riot that brings companies together, and we can pull these resources together and actually, have entrepreneurs come, startups come. So in Morrisville, it was Veridex. They came and helped us with these sensors. Now they're doing well. They're going and talking to other cities. They're hiring and growing. And so if we can get more entrepreneurs to succeed, I think a tech economy is one that's, supporting small businesses and startups. And so this is where we want to see the synergy as we grow technology in Morrisville.
So talking about AI and automation changing the job market, how can you how can the local governments help their residents to adapt and stay competitive also?
Well, that's a great question. And a few months ago, I had a family friend of mine, John Chambers, who ran Cisco Systems, a great story from Charleston, West Virginia. He ran a $47 billion company, acquired 180 companies, and made 10,000 millionaires. And he's from my hometown. I knew his mom and dad. And John and I were talking about that on a podcast I interviewed with him. And I think the biggest challenge is we need an AI strategy, because innovation in AI is moving so fast. So the greatest challenge is, as John said, we're automating away jobs faster than we can replenish them. So the most important thing local governments and the state can do, and it's being done a lot by the community colleges, is training people in the jobs they already have on how to use these AI technologies, so that they're prepared for that next job. So even if, he gave an example of a company in France named La Poste, where the CEO, this was like 4 years ago, he trained 250,000 employees on AI, and he used all 7 unions to do it. So I think this is something that we have to do to be very quick. There are organizations like one of my friends, Mark Hinkle, we call him the godfather of AI here in the Triangle. He's doing a lot of meetups and sessions where he's talking about, there's a conference coming up called All Things Open AI, and he's talking about simple things like how do you use ChatGPT for your job. These kinds of trainings I think are really valuable. So I think the key is we have to be flexible, we have to be agile, and while we're all saying this,
and open for adaptation also.
Open for adaptation, and I think what's also exciting though, and Chambers, also reminded us, is that there's a lot of startups emerging around AI. And I think so as we automate away jobs, there's going to be many new jobs created. Modi has figured this out in India. When you look at India just 2 years ago, India has now gone to the 3rd fastest economy in the world, and their entire success was on Digital Blueprint India. Chambers actually advised Modi on that strategy, which I never knew. And when you look at it, India had 81 startups that are unicorns, billion-dollar startups. They're getting very serious about AI and smart cities themselves. And look at what their economy has done, right? So I think we have a similar opportunity in North Carolina, what I call make it an AI emergent state. In Wake County, making Wake County an AI county, where we're taking it seriously, we're committing, and we're coming up with a strategy. And of course, there's also risks about security, whether AI could be weaponized politically. But I think that we and human beings write the rules. I think if we can be, manage the ethics of AI, then we should have a great opportunity.
So much informative.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack. So we could do a whole podcast on that.
Morrisville has been a diverse place. So how do you ensure that the policies, the government policies, will reflect or support all the communities?
Well, this is an area where I'm very proud of Morrisville, and I have to give our staff and my colleagues on the council all the kudos. The first thing is that inclusive and livable neighborhoods is one of our brand statements in Morrisville. And today we have belated Happy Holi to everybody, but next week we have Holi in Morrisville at the Cedar Fort District Park, where we're dousing ourselves with colors. Today we're doing it at the Hindu Society of North Carolina. We have Diwali event where we do a proclamation and we do dancing and festivities.
Yes.
And I often joke that even though I'm the son of immigrants from India, I can have in my one hand a South Indian coffee, a dosa idli, and then I can have in my other hand a banh mi sandwich and a barbecue sandwich.
Yeah.
It's East and West. And then obviously, cricket, which is we're the cricket capital of the U.S. now. Major League Cricket playing, Team USA training, Sri Lanka training. This is exciting because it's giving us an opportunity to really help
connect with the diverse communities.
Right, connect with the diverse communities. And the thing that I'm the proudest of is that we have a program called the Language Access Plan.
Okay.
And this was a federal initiative that basically says that we can get grant money to convert language in areas in the native-born languages of immigrant communities.
Yeah.
So what our staff did, we partnered first, we said we're going to do Hindi because the largest demographic out of the 40% of our
Hindi
population is Asian American in Morrisville,
yes.
but 35% is from the nation of India.
Yes.
And what we do now is we have a translation service working with Hindu Society of North Carolina, Hindi Vikas Mandal.
Yes.
We've now used translation services. So you can go to the Morrisville website, there'll be certain things written in Hindi.
Okay.
And you can, certain signs written in Hindi.
Yeah.
And now we're going to extend that to Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a better example of a government leveraging this kind of language translation services. And it's going quite well.
Yes.
And I think eventually it could be expanded in Wake County, like Apex and Cary and other areas.
So you will be the pioneer of starting all the languages so that we can reach out to the
Well, I think it's a great model for people to follow.
Yes.
But I mean, I could go on and on, but we're a very diverse town. We're very inclusive, and not just for Indians. I mean, we want to celebrate, international. We have an international festival.
Yeah.
We have a large Korean community, Vietnamese community.
Yes.
We have an Irish community. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. We're green. But so we're trying to be more responsive of representing all, Americans who came from all over the world, and even country music and bluegrass music, which I grew up on, so I miss it sometimes.
So how do you see and what do you see the local government in supporting the small businesses and startups?
Well, this is another great example of what we've been able to do in Morrisville. We now have hired an economic development director in Morrisville whose job would be to work on recruiting large businesses here. So we've had quite a run in terms of recruitment of business, whether it's Microsoft, Forge Battery, which is an EV manufacturer, Cineos Health. We have $1.3 billion life science campus, so life sciences has been a big part, and tech. But in terms of small businesses, we've had a program called Morrisville Means Business with our chamber, our commerce. And what we do is we support businesses. So this last year we provided grant money, federal money we got from Congresswoman Ross for storefront upkeep.
Okay.
So like better signage, better upkeep of the stores so people could apply.
Okay.
We do mentoring programs where entrepreneurs can come in. We have a program with WRAL Tech called Launch.
Yes.
So all of these things are supporting small businesses.
Yes.
One of my visions, not only in Morrisville, I've always been a proponent of entrepreneurs and startups, especially in working with innovation and technology folks.
Yeah.
And we're really excited about making Wake County a startup county. So I think having more innovators, having more incubators, having more things where companies can come in. And I think Thai Carolinas, which is a global entrepreneurship organization started by Vinod Khosla and others, we have a chapter in North Carolina.
Yes.
So there's a really great opportunity to work with our governor, Josh Stein, who's a friend of mine, our Commerce Secretary, Lee Lilly, to work upon this. But as the next Wake County Commissioner, my plan is to really make Wake County a startup county.
Yes.
Because Secretary Marshall, who I'll introduce you to because I'd love for her to come on your podcast, she announced a few weeks ago at the Entrepreneurship Summit, NC IDEA, that for every small business that's successful, even if they increase performance by 20%, they create about 25,000 jobs, or 5%. If they increase performance by 5%, so for every small business that is successful, we incorporate, we create about 5 jobs. That's hundreds of thousands of new jobs. So this is what I want to do in North Carolina.
That's a great thing. So transportation and infrastructure, if we talk about what is the steps the Morrisville town is taking for the mobility and connectivity of the residents?
Well, I think the greatest thing with connectivity and mobility is the first thing that we started in Morrisville is on-demand transit called Smart Shuttle.
Yes.
This is powered by an app called Via, and so we have like 15 different nodes that you can take. So it's not door-to-door like Go Carry, but it's part of the Go Triangle, Go Carry network. So this has gone really well. You just, if I want to go from my house, I go to a stop, I can go to the gym, I can go to the Church Street Park, I can go to different places. We're expanding that. That's step number one.
Yeah.
Step number two is Wake County, and I think this is going to be important if I join the county commission, is transit. Many years ago, there was a sales tax referendum to get commuter rail funded. There's been a shift in moving that money now to what's called the S-Line, which is ARP money that we got from Secretary Buttigieg and Biden for going Amtrak to different cities.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to do. But bus rapid transit is also on the way. These are larger buses, bus on shoulder, that will allow buses to go faster. So we're going to be expanding that network across the county. And then the final thing, and so Morrisville will get their fair share. We want transit-oriented development because we want to make sure that we're basically providing that stop for the rail. Or we might be losing our train sign, so we're going to try to advocate for that. But I want to reemphasize to everybody listening today how much the town of Morrisville has invested in roads. Most of the roads you drive on in Morrisville are state roads. NC 54, Chapel Hill Road, Morrisville Carpenter. We've invested probably over $60 million of our own money to widen Morrisville Carpenter Road to four lanes, which was a $14 million grant that we got from the government, no, $9 million grant. McCrimmon Bypass, we widened McCrimmon, extended all the way from Airport Boulevard to Aviation Evans. That side has built up a lot of development.
Yes,
the Carolina Hurricanes train at the Wake Competition Center, and that was a hotel occupancy project. We started with Jeff Amons, but a lot of development. But the point I'm trying to make is we've invested a lot in our roads because the DOT, as we develop more fuel-efficient cars, we don't have taxing authority right now on electric vehicles. So what happens is the revenue goes down. And what happens, the revenue's going down as the population goes up.
Yes.
So this is going to be the greatest challenge for Governor Stein, as he has now been in office now for about 3 months. How does he, they just opened up 40 because of the Western Carolina hurricane. But anyway, I think that's my answer to your question. That's what we're doing, but I think that's what we can do across the county.
Yeah, everything takes time and we will be reaching over there soon. So you have been involved in economic and development initiatives. What industries or opportunity do you see shaping Morrisville's future?
Well, I think the first is strong in tech. I mean, I see a vision eventually of making it an AI economy. In addition to Morrisville, Wake County, having more AI startups. We have one right now, Pendo, the high-rise in downtown Raleigh, but we need more of those. I mean, $79 billion of venture capital coming in to fund AI startups in Silicon Valley. We need to see more of these startups, grow. Tech is big. And we've got the big ones like Microsoft, Oracle, IBM, Cisco, obviously, but we have emerging tech.
Yes.
The second one I would say is life sciences. We have a $1.3 billion life science campus now. We're recruiting big companies. We had Invitae, but they pulled out, because of financial issues. It's a genomics company. We've got Fujifilm, which is a successful one. And I think and that's where the COVID vaccine was initially produced, was the Fujifilm. In Trump's first term, President Trump's first term, where he actually visited Fujifilm. So I think that this is, I would say, tech and life sciences, and you're starting to see advanced manufacturing. So when you look at, Forge Battery, which is, they're very specific manufacturing for electric vehicle batteries. Using lithium technologies and things like that. I think that's exciting. And then the final component is green and sustainability technologies. So I'll give you an example. One of Bill Gates' investments is in a company, and he talked about this on Fareed Zakaria, but they moved their headquarters to Morrisville. It's called Sustion. And what they do is they take carbon out of the air and they capture it. And then they commercialize technologies to convert it into jet fuel and other great technologies. So it's fascinating.
Yes.
So these green technologies are going to be creating lots of jobs. If you look at the last few years, There was over $60 billion worth of investment just in green jobs when Roy Cooper was governor. And a lot of that was coming from the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. So I think you're going to see a lot more jobs, and Morrisville can be a part of that. And of course, I think Wake County can be a part of it.
Yeah, wonderful.
Sorry, my answers are so long. So much to get in.
No, it is, the information also is there. As the first Indian American elected in Wake County, what was your experience and what advice you would do for give the youngsters who are coming into this field?
Excuse me. Well, I think that's a great question. I mean, for me, this has been a really emotional few months for me, knowing that, it's the end of a chapter for me, and I'm beginning to write the new chapter. Don't know what it's going to be. I'm either going to be a county commissioner or I'm going to be a former council member. But I think the best thing for me is that the best thing about being first is to know you're not the last. And so I'm really proud of the great work being done by Satish Garamella, who's now running for mayor, a good friend of mine. We've got of Morrisville, we have Sarika Bansal, who's doing great work in Cary, Ya Lu, who's a first Chinese American in the legislature, and Dimple Ajmera in Charlotte, who represents 1 million people in Charlotte. And hopefully we'll have one on the Wake County Commission. But I think that the greatest thing is to see the energy and excitement of people from our community wanting to
come into politics. And
so for me, I really want my legacy to be that I was the first one to break down that door, and now we have others that are shattering the glass ceiling and breaking that door. And I think that it's just an exciting feeling. So my advice is that I think that you can serve your community in many ways. If you don't want to run for office, serve on a board or committee, advisory committees. Get involved, make your voice heard. But this is your country, this is your community, this is your region, and we've got to make sure that we're doing what we can to make it happen. So that's my greatest legacy, and I'm ready to write the next chapter, and it's exciting that this chapter will close, and I've got 12 more council meetings, but I'm looking forward to continuing to write the chapters.
That's wonderful. So that was my next question, that what is next for you? Are there any major initiatives or goals that you are excited in upcoming years?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I mean, I'm running to Wake County Commission because I'm a very goals-driven individual. I'm very competitive. But I mean, the first thing is we've got to make Wake County a startup county. So I really want to support small businesses. One of the issues we're having is post-COVID, people aren't coming back to work. And you're seeing a lot of the companies that were giving incentives, like Infosys, which is headquartered in India, they pulled out of their economic development deal $22.4 million because they didn't hire the additional 2,000 jobs. And you're seeing this. So I think we have to accelerate small business growth by providing better access to capital, making Wake County a startup county. I think we need to make Wake County an AI county. We have to work around the cities. There's 13 local governments from Cary to Apex to Garner, Fuquay, Rollsville. How do we get them to take what I was able to do and what we were able to do in Morrisville and replicate that in the county, share best practices? And as we do that, we can grow tech and small jobs. Housing costs are high. The Wake County Commissioners runs $2 billion worth of budget. The commissioners control housing, so we can do affordable housing. Having a Wake Transit plan, getting commuter rail back on the books. EMS service. 55% of the Wake County is seniors, but EMS service is strained. When something happens to our parents, our grandparents, might take 12 minutes for them to get there and then they're dead. So this is something that we have to do, better EMS service. Public safety, investing in the sheriff's office, and I think sustainability as well. Green, sustainable, renewable energy. One thing we don't talk a lot about is as we use AI more. I'm doing a Wake County tour. I met with the mayor of Garner. He brought up a good point. Data centers. For every time we use ChatGPT, I didn't use it to prepare for this interview, and it's actually one of the better interviews I've done. I think I've had a ChatGPT addiction like all of us. You want to go in there and what should I be talking about? But what I find interesting is that when you use ChatGPT, you lose, it's like 14 glasses of water, the ChatGPT searches all day. I've heard Fareed Zakaria talk about it. Taking the electricity of like 14,000 households or something like that. So there's a drain on energy.
Yes.
And this is, something that we're seeing as we use more water, as we use more power. Even in Morrisville, one problem we had, I forgot to talk about in the challenges, is that last year we were notified we went from 100 megawatt load of energy to 125 megawatts just because of life sciences and pharma growth.
Okay.
So we were running out of power. So we had to build a new substation in my neighborhood. People were really mad. Eventually found a location. So I think energy would also be a problem. If people are going to be using AI, and we're going to make Wake County an AI county, how are we going to get the data centers? What kind of energy source are they going to be powered on? Nuclear? Solar? So these are
very...
I never even thought about that issue. So I want to thank my friend Mayor Buddy Gupton from Garner, who was bringing me...
Yes. Thank you very much for joining this podcast. I'm so thankful that you agreed and to come.
Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about me, you can just go to Steve Rao for Wake, where you can learn more about my ideas. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can always still email me if you have ideas for Town of Morrisville. Go to towncouncil@morrisvillenc.gov or srao@morrisvillenc.gov, and you can always email at sr@steverao.com. But thank you for being trailblazers, Bharat FM, all the great work you're doing in media. It's fantastic, and whatever I can do to help.
Thank you, and thank you very much, our Unfiltered Gupshup family and AB Photos. Thank you very much for this podcast.
Thank you very much.
Keep subscribing.